Namaste to everyone. It's my privilege and pleasure to share time and thoughts with you on this momentous occasion of the 96th Foundation Day of Kaivaladham, which is my institute. The topic on which I'm supposed to talk is yoga therapy, modern approaches. Do they synthesize with the original yogic concepts and principles? The name is very lengthy. I am going to speak on this, which is actually a topic about meta therapy and not therapy as such. Yeah, we are going to compare between two therapeutic approaches and not talk about any specific therapy as such. Yeah, so you cannot expect from me to tell you what you should do for diabetes or hypertension or some problems, because we are not talking about therapy. We are talking about comparing two approaches. One approach referred to as modern approaches, and the second is original yogic concepts and principles as regards yoga therapy. Before I proceed, I would like to put these two terms in proper perspective in which I'll be handling them. What do we mean by modern approaches? What do we mean by original yogic concepts and principles? Only when you understand and are very clear what do we mean by them, then the possibility or scope for synthesizing between the two or finding no synthesis between the two, as the case may be. When we talk about original yogic concepts and principles, I will take it as the philosophical foundations for yoga therapy, because original concepts and principles are based in yogic philosophy. So I will be conveniently referring to it as philosophical foundations of yoga therapy. And when I come to modern approaches, I understand or take it as therapy that is practiced today with more emphasis on scientific research and evidence-based therapy, which in short is the scientific foundation for yoga therapy. So very clear, we are comparing between the philosophical foundations, the ancient traditional way in which yoga was used as therapy or not used as therapy, and what do we understand today as yoga therapy with its emphasis on research findings, and trying to vouchsafe the efficacy of the practices as regards their therapeutic effects. I'm in no way inferring that philosophy is not scientific or science is not philosophic. Yeah, both of them are rational enterprises, definitely. But particularly when you take two Indian philosophical foundations, we start the philosophical foundations with what we refer to as Shraddha or faith. Whereas when we talk about scientific foundation, we talk about proof. Yeah, this is the basic difference to begin with. Yeah. So wherever, that is why in Indian epistemology, we have Shabda or Agama as a pramana, as a source of right knowledge, because what is given in the scriptures is right. Yeah, to begin with, we don't ask proof for it. What my guru tells me is right. You don't require further proof for it. So this basic clarity on the philosophical foundation and scientific foundation, if we have to see whether they synthesize, then lots of interesting things come about. If I talk about the philosophical foundations, then the basic text of yoga philosophy being Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which being an Astika philosophy is based upon the Vedas, accepting the authority of the Vedas. When philosophically speaking, yoga is a preventive discipline, totally a preventive discipline. In the whole of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, as our earlier speaker, respected Sudhir Tiwari ji, spoke about, except for the word Vyadhi, and that too used as an antaraya, as a distraction or disturbance for getting concentrated, except for that word Vyadhi, which is physical illness, there is no mention of any ailment, there is no mention of any therapy specifically in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Yeah. Because yoga basically is a preventive discipline. When we say it is a preventive discipline, what we mean is that yoga is meant for a healthy person to reach some goal which is based upon your physical and mental health and taking you towards a state beyond health. As a preventive discipline, yoga is more, or it caters more towards lifestyle, yogic lifestyle, which prevents illness, preserves and promotes good health. So the necessity or the occasion for therapy does not arise at all. If your lifestyle is therapy, if your lifestyle is yogic. And the moment we talk about lifestyle, automatically we are talking about a holistic individual, not only holistic from the various dimensions of the person's personality, but also holistic in the sense of yoga influencing 24 hours of the day, all the time. It is nothing like doing yoga, it is being yogic, which brings about health and happiness automatically. Further, yoga and all other Indian philosophies, except for Charvakas, are considered as spiritual in nature. Yoga is a spiritual discipline. And with the joy that I take in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, I can assert that Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is a grammar of all forms of spirituality. Every form of spirituality has something common with yoga. Yoga is a spiritual discipline. And the moment I say spiritual discipline, I would like in the initial place itself to draw a distinction between religion and spirituality. Otherwise, there's a lot of confusion that the moment you say you're spiritual, somebody will say you're promoting some religion. No, there is a big difference between spirituality and religion. We may not go into it, but yoga is a spiritual discipline. And the fact that it is a spiritual discipline, the approach to wellness and health in yoga is what I refer to as top down. By top down, let me clarify. If we consider in the human being three main parts to his personality or her personality: the body, the mind, and the spirit. Three main. If you take philosophically, the body and the mind coming from Prakriti, the spirit or consciousness coming from Purusha, we are composite structures of Purusha Prakriti. So the body, mind, and spirit. The mind is subtler than the body. The spirit is subtler than the mind. And when I say the approach to health and well-being is top down, what I mean is, if you keep your mind happy, the body automatically becomes healthy. Today, science, attests this fact that 90-95% of physical ailments are psychosomatic. It is arising in the mind. So if you are keeping the mind happy in proper perspective, samatvam, automatically the body will be healthy. And carrying the same logic further, if you cater to your spiritual aspirations, automatically your mind will be happy. So the first point, yoga is a spiritual discipline, and the entire philosophy of yoga, backed by Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, is meant for spiritual fulfillment. We are fulfilling our spiritual aspirations, because of which the mind is happy, because of which the body is healthy. You cannot take away the spiritual roots of yoga in any form of therapy that we do, because it is sourced in it being a spiritual discipline. Having said that, if we take yoga catering to holistic health, then spiritual fulfillment is the foundation of holistic health. And this spiritual fulfillment, as Sudhirji spoke about, happens only when you practice Antaranga Yoga, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, which comprises meditation in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. In fact, in any form of spiritual discipline you take, meditation is the highest practice. All the earlier 5 angas comprising the Bhairanga Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, they prepare you for meditation. They are in fact instrumental for ensuring that you are physically and mentally in a position to reach the state of meditation and experience that awareness that you are in reality, which is the spiritual essence of each one of us, speaking from yogic philosophical point of view. So the approach in yoga is top down, more importance given to the spiritual dimension. The last point in this point, as far as philosophical foundations are considered, yogic approach is necessarily individual specific. I'm making this point because this point has got tremendous relevance in the dimension of therapy, and particularly when we consider therapy, whether it is allopathy or modern approach to yogic therapy, which has a tendency to make therapy more objective, more universal, more applicable to every person. No, yogic therapy cannot become like a tablet for headache, that whichever person takes, whatever the head is, the headache will go. No, there is nothing like that in yoga. Yoga is individual specific. And this is what is asserted coincidentally when you read T. Krishnamacharya, a legendary yoga teacher, probably the best example of a yoga teacher, where teaching of yoga and administering therapy through yoga is always individual specific. And for a lot of therapists here in the audience, even we do experience this, is that though we find some asanas in Hatha Yoga textbooks talking about being good for some particular ailment, we cannot just take the asana and give it to every person. We will have to see the constitution of the person physically, mentally, and then modify the asana and then apply it. So what are we doing? We are actually making that asana suit the person particularly. Different persons, different type of modifications, variations being done, because this subjective element, individual specific element, cannot be weaned away. Whatever you do in yoga, whether you are teaching, learning, or treating, because subjectivity is what gives its essence in the dimension of yoga, in the field of yoga. From here, when I go to the modern approach, I'm rushing a little bit because of shortage of time. Yeah, because Prasida was very, very clear that I must finish within 25 minutes. So I will try to rush up. If from here we go to modern approach, the modern approach predominantly caters to the body, to some extent to the mind, totally neglecting the spiritual dimension. The mind and the spirit conveniently ignored, conveniently neglected. This is because of what we refer to the reductionist approach. You are taking a human being and analyzing the human being into every part and treating each part, separately. No, the human being cannot be reduced either to the body or to the mind or to the spirit exclusively. You have to treat the human being holistically. And that is where, when we go and refer, I don't think there is any physical element which does not have a mental, corresponding part to it. We have to deal with the mind also. So what we are doing is, from the point of view of the Taittiriya Upanishad, we are emphasizing more yoga therapy towards the Annamaya Kosha, the physical body, to some extent to the mind, and not considering the connection between the mind and the body when we are administering the therapy to the body. It is falling short of the promise that yoga as a holistic discipline holds for taking a person towards health and happiness. That promise will not be fulfilled in that reductionist approach. Also, in the modern approach, lifestyle considerations are not considered at all. Without adopting a yogic lifestyle, you may not be perfect in that lifestyle. You may not be able to follow the yamas and niyamas totally. But without paying attention to that, just administering therapy to the body, it is falling short of what yoga holds for health and happiness. You have to take care of the lifestyle totally. So, modern approach may be more applicable or maybe more aligned towards the Bahiranga Yoga. Antaranga Yoga is totally not taken care at all because we don't have instruments to measure. So conveniently we say it is not there. And this is where I said in the first place, the philosophical foundation of yoga starts in Shraddha or faith. If you don't know it, have faith that it is there. This is the starting point. Without having faith there, you will never know. We have to have that lifestyle considerations. When I say lifestyle, what do I mean? What I mean is what values you have in life, what are the priorities in life, what are the goals of life, what is your approach towards desires in life. Without considering this, any extent of therapy is not going to make you healthy or happy. No, it is not. Because yoga is purely a lifestyle science, total approach towards lifestyle. So therapy cannot be called yoga therapy if yogic lifestyle is not incorporated into it. Again, this happens, lifestyle considerations are not considered. Why? Because, as I mentioned, in our obsession, in our over enthusiasm to be scientific, we try to cover only those things which are measurable, which are objective, which can be analyzed. And in the process, beautiful things of life which are very subjective, which are not open for measurement as of now, maybe we don't have instruments sufficient to measure them, we are just neglecting them and weaning towards more measurement, analysis, experiments. I am coming to this field of experiments once again. My next question I'm asking myself is, Can there be a yoga therapist who does not practice yoga? I find it very hard to believe that you can be a yoga therapist without practicing yoga. Because if our yogic therapy is based upon knowledge of yoga, which comes from research or from experiments done, then you cannot administer till the time you have experienced it. Yoga is more experience based than evidence. We are again looking at upside down. We are first trying to find out evidence and then looking for experience. No, it has to be experience first. You first experience. So far, to my knowledge, no scientific experiment has disproved what is written in the Hatha Yoga textbooks as regards therapy. It is only reaffirming that what is written there is right, and what is written there is based upon experiences. Yoga is an experiential science. You cannot wean away the yoga therapist from yoga therapy. Understand this difference. You cannot wean away the yoga therapist from the therapy that he or she is rendering. The yoga therapist is a part and a most important part of yoga therapy. Experience comes first, evidence comes later. You have to practice first. If with these few points, some points of synthesis, then yes, when it comes to the body, the modern approach is necessary, very much necessary, because it, one, gives the advantage of research to what we are doing in yoga practices. Second, it will prevent tall claims unnecessarily made without verifying claims that are made in yoga. It can stop that, definitely. And it can also prevent accidents from happening while giving yoga therapy. Without verifying, you're just giving therapy, you can result in a lot of damage. So the modern approach, scientific approach, is a must. No two things about it. But then you also have to appreciate that it is restricted and confined to only one area of the human being, one dimension of the human being. If I am jumping the gun, then I would like to say that instead of making yoga scientific, make science spiritual. Very much necessary, because you are considering only one part of the human being, the body, and trying to reduce into smaller parts. You are in a very reductionist manner you are approaching. We have to approach holistically. In yoga, the person is important, not the problem of the person. Because if the person is set in proper perspective, the problem becomes very small. You have to deal with the person, not with the problem. And if you have to deal with the person, then all the dimensions have to be taken care of. And when I mean all the dimensions, I mean the mind, the spirit. One area which even in yoga is not yet identified and exploited or capitalized, and that is the energy dimension. Yoga is rich in administering therapy through energy transmission. Only thing is that we don't have, established ways and means. Because even if you take Hatha Yoga texts talk about the, if you take about layer, it says the senses of the body has a layer in the mind has a layer in prana, and the prana has a layer in nada. That is the order of the hierarchy. Yeah, the body, the mind, the prana, and the consciousness, the self-realization. That prana part is very crucial, and that is what we are to some extent making use of in therapy, in pranayama practices. Of course, we are not touching prana there. We are just doing breathing practices. when we are able to, with assurance feel the prana sanchar in the body, then actually we are doing pranayam. Otherwise, still there, we are doing only shwasa prashwasa ayam. We are only doing breathing practices, assuming yes, the pranayam benefits are happening inside. Fine, no problem at all. It is happening there. So you have to take this modern approach, should incorporate, must incorporate this psychological and the spiritual dimension. Then only you can say it is yoga therapy. Otherwise, it is not yoga therapy. The lifestyle considerations have to be taken care of. You cannot wean away the spiritual tradition, the spiritual roots of yoga in whatever therapy you give. Because then you are not using yoga as such. The definition of yoga, in yoga, health is a byproduct. It's not an end product. When we are doing yoga, we become healthy as a byproduct. That is why Patanjali says, even in asanas, tata dvandhanapi khataha. It does not say diabetes will go, it does not say hypertension will go, it does not say anything. He says, no, conflicts in the mind will go. The body becoming okay, body becoming healthy is a byproduct. It happens automatically. And incidentally, since I'm talking about philosophical foundations, in yoga, physical health and mental health both have to be transcended. Because both belong to only your prakritic nature and your Purusha. So you're an obsession for health, you're actually going away from Purusha, which is your real essence. That is why the emphasis in Patanjali Yoga Sutras is not on different ailments, because ailments are not even Vyadhi, which is as a Chitta Vikshepa, which Sudhirji was talking about. It is not Vyadhi because it is sickness, you're getting pain there, discomfort there. No, it is not there. That physical ailment comes in the way of your concentration, so it is an obstruction in the path of yoga. It is not an obstruction because you're having pain or going through some discomfort. No, it is taking away the concentration of your mind. You're not able to go to the goal of yoga. So it is an antaraya. So it is a chitta vikshepa. So without considering lifestyle, no therapy can be given. And if you have to consider lifestyle, you have to consider the mental habits, the emotions, the spiritual dimension totally, the meditation part of it, the awareness level. In fact, in the whole of yoga therapy, awareness is the strength of yoga therapy. Without awareness, no therapy can work. And if awareness is there, no mind can fall sick. That awareness is a sufficient foil against all mental fluctuations on the negative side. As a synthesis, if we have to synthesize between modern approach and philosophical approach, the original principles, sadhana has to be given more significance. Not only sadhana, a therapist spending time in a yoga ashram, going through the yogic lifestyle, being under a guru, reviving the Guru Shishya Parampara, because that is where you're not taking from books. The books gives you only intellectual knowledge. From where will you get experience? Because yoga is experience-based therapy. You have to spend time in the yogic ashram like Kaivaladham, beautiful environment, be there, go deeper into sadhana, experience more, and then search for evidence, what is happening to me. But first let it happen. Without happening, how can you discuss about therapy? We discuss about meditation without doing meditation. And then we go on discussing about ways and means of what may be happening in meditation, what chemicals may be coming in the brain. No, first meditate. At least for yoga therapists, if not for others. We must give more importance to sadhana, to experience, to be in an environment which is yogic. Only when that yogic nature is there in the therapist, then therapy happens through transmission of that person's energy. I have seen number of times that You start feeling well when you are with certain people. Why? Because the nature of the person, the energy exuded from the person. This is the energy that we are talking about when Patanjali talks about ahimsa pratishtayam tat sannido vairatyaga. When you are in the close proximity of a person who practices ahimsa perfectly, in the vicinity of that person, all enmity disappears. Because that energy of ahimsa, non-violence, is so strong that the entire environment becomes non-violent. No anger happens there. In the same manner, in the presence of a guru, in the presence of a yogic teacher, the energy of health that is given out is so much that a sick person who comes to you automatically feels nice when he comes to you. Therapy will happen later. This dimension has to be incorporated. Otherwise, we are forgetting the richness of yoga. Yoga has got so much in the field of therapy, so much. But we are confining only to one area. No, open out. Open out. The philosophical tradition in our country, the spiritual tradition of yoga is so strong. It's so strong, so effective. The last point I want to make, I've already exceeded some time. The last point I want to make is, even today when we talk about yoga therapy, we are not considering the range of therapeutic tools that are at disposal of yoga. We are restricting only to hatha yoga therapeutic aspects. We have mantra yoga, we have kundalini yoga, we have nada yoga. All of them have got therapeutic aspects. A soothing instrumental music is the best solace for a disturbed or restless mind. Yes, it's only the effect that is coming. But we have got such deep things in yoga there that there are so many other traditions of yoga who have got therapeutic aspects which have to be incorporated in the modern approaches. Otherwise, we are restricting ourselves to confining ourselves to a very small area of therapy in the modern approach. Look at so many traditions of yoga. All of them have got therapeutic aspects. Because unless until you are healthy, you cannot reach the state of self-realization. So health has to happen. So when you follow any tradition, health is a byproduct and it enables you to go towards self-realization. Whether you call moksha, nirvana, kaivalya does not matter. I think I will stop here. Yeah, I have exceeded 5-10 minutes with all of your permission. Thank you so much for patient listening.
Thank you
As
so
usual,
much,
my
Dr.
best
Rao.
with Kaivalya Dham for many, many more years of fruitful life, healthy life. Thank you very much.